OLED is widely acclaimed for delivering the most accurate picture quality, but mini-LED TVs have been gaining market share, mainly due to their affordability at larger sizes and picture quality that's good enough for the average consumer. But here's the thing, not all mini-LED TVs are created equal. Local dimming algorithms can make or break the viewing experience, and among TV brands, Sony consistently sets the gold standard. The 65-inch Sony Bravia 7 or XR70 mini-LED television I'm reviewing today is a prime example of why that reputation holds true when compared against a Sony BVM HX3110 mastering monitor capable of pixel-level dimming and 4000 nits of HDR peak brightness. In this particularly dark scene from Season 1 Episode 7 of House of the Dragon played in HDR10, most other mini-LED TVs would struggle, showing crushed shadow detail, distracting backlight fluctuations, or general haziness. However, the Bravia 7 came remarkably close to matching the HDR presentation on the HX3110 reference monitor. Shadow detail and backlight stability were impressive, even though the Sony still looked slightly brighter than reference, which is probably unavoidable given the lack of pixel-level light control. Another challenging low light sequence from the Green Knight in HDR10 was similarly handled with poise. While most mini-LED TVs would falter due to distracting luminance fluctuations or backlight blotchiness, the Bravia 7 remained stable and delivered decent shadow detail, again appearing only slightly brighter than the reference monitor. Turning to SDR content, the Bravia 7 rendered the iconic gravity scene with Sandra Bullock tumbling through space, as well as a dark sequence from the final Harry Potter movie with outstanding shadow detail and luminance stability, accurately conveying the creative intent. So as far as software is concerned, the Sony Bravia 7's local dimming algorithm is class-leading, but what's under the hood in terms of hardware? Our 65-inch review sample uses a VA-type LCD panel without viewing angle compensation filter, boasting a high native contrast ratio of 5200:1 as measured on a 4x4 ANSI checkerboard pattern with local dimming disabled. Naturally, this comes with narrower viewing angles typical of VA panels. Counted using a small white box crawling horizontally and then vertically against a black background, the 65XR70 is equipped with 512 local dimming zones arranged in a 32x16 grid. As shown earlier, Sony's local dimming algorithm prioritizes image accuracy over outright contrast and blooming suppression, which means some blooming artifacts and somewhat grayer letterbox bars, especially off-axis, were inevitable, though they didn't distract us to any significant degree during real-world viewing when watched straight on. To see absolutely no blooming, inky top and bottom letterbox bars together with accurate shadow detailing, OLEDs featuring per-pixel illumination control cannot be matched, let alone be beaten by mini-LED TVs. But for those of you prioritizing brightness, mini-LED televisions shine, literally. HDR peak brightness on the 65-inch Sony Bravia 7 measured close to 1900 nits on a 10% window after calibration to D65 white point, with accurate PQ EOTF tracking, and 650 nits full screen, allowing the TV to come impressively close to matching the HX3110, which can reach 1000 nits full screen, particularly during this high APL construct room sequence from the Matrix consisting of a bright white background. Let's talk colors. Our 65-inch Sony Bravia 7 review sample exhibited red-tinted grayscale in the most accurate professional picture mode out of the box. Fortunately, like most Sony televisions featuring Kalman AutoCal support, the Bravia 7 can be calibrated to deliver highly accurate colors, not only objectively on this challenging color checker SG chart where 140 color patches were measured, but also in subjective viewing compared to a reference monitor costing more than 30,000 Great British pounds. Thanks to a quantum dot enhancement film, the Sony Bravia 7 covered 97% of DCI-P3 color space in UV terms, whereas Rec 2020 coverage was 80%, contributing to impressive color volume paired with its substantial HDR brightness. The Sony Bravia 7 supports Dolby Vision, but unfortunately the black floor was slightly elevated in Dolby Vision mode, particularly obvious during fade to black sequences, which is why we still prefer to watch in HDR10 with Sony's on-point dynamic tone mapping whenever possible. Sony televisions are renowned for exceptional motion handling, and the Bravia 7 continues this tradition as long as film mode is changed from the default setting of high to low to prevent intermittent frame skipping when watching 50Hz broadcast content containing mixed edits. Otherwise, our optimized motion flow custom settings of film smoothness min, camera smoothness max, and clearness min achieved higher motion clarity without obvious flicker, frame skipping, microstutter, or other interpolation artifacts seen on lesser TVs across a wide variety of content, ranging from news and sports to movies and streaming. Talking of which, since the pandemic, some streaming providers, including Netflix, have throttled the bitrate of certain shows, especially in Europe, resulting in a softer picture with more compression artifacts. This is where a VPN comes in. Surfshark allows you to stream content from another country without needing you to be physically there, so you can watch Netflix at higher bit rates with better picture quality. You can also get more content that's not available in your region. Perhaps the US Netflix library, which contains more movie titles, for less than the price of a Big Mac per month. There's 24/7 live customer support, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you visit surfshark.com/HDTV test, you'll get up to 4 extra months free. So sign up today and give Surfshark a try. I will put the link in the YouTube description below. Thanks again for your support. Okay, upscaling was another strong point of the Sony Bravia 7, which upconverted sub-4K content adeptly, retrieving ample detail without excessive ringing or artificial sharpness. Native 10-bit gradation was excellent, manifesting little to no color striping in the skies of the Martian, even with smooth gradation disabled. Based on this low light sequence from the HDR10 playback of The Green Knight, the Bravia 7 also exhibited less polarization than what we observed on the flagship Bravia 9 Mini LED television. Screen uniformity on our 65-inch review unit was one of the cleaner ones we've encountered among LCD-based displays, but there remain some very mild dirty screen effect if you looked hard enough on full-field gray slides, although thankfully it's not noticeable in real-life content. In game mode, input lag measured 18 milliseconds at 60 frames per second, halving to 9 milliseconds at 120 FPS. Outside game mode, the Sony Bravia 7 performs intensive video processing, so in case you need to correct any lip-sync delay on your AV receiver or soundbar, input lag at 24 FPS measured more than 300 milliseconds, an eye-watering figure. Back to games. The Sony Bravia 7 uses a MediaTek Pantonic 1000 chipset, permitting 4K 120Hz Dolby Vision gameplay from the Xbox Series X. However, note that only 2 out of 4 HDMI connections support full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, of which one is the eARC port. Sony's gradation-preferred HDR tone mapping employs dynamic tone mapping, which complicates HDRG calibration. Similar to what we recommend for most other Sony TVs, our advice would be to disable HDR tone mapping during HDRG calibration, then re-enable gradation preferred for real HDR gaming to maximize specular highlights without clipping. In terms of sound quality, while the Bravia 7's audio lacked the bass depth, soundstage, and Dolby Atmos immersion found on the flagship Bravia 9, it still performs admirably for everyday viewing, with dialogue clarity in particular standing out as a positive point. Let's sum up. To be perfectly honest, I originally did not have high hopes for the Sony Bravia 7. After all, it sits below the Bravia 8, which is OLED, and the Bravia 9, which is the Japanese brand's 2024 flagship TV. However, after extensive testing and real-world viewing, the Bravia 7 surpassed my expectations and then some. This is an outstanding mini LED TV that comes closer to matching the creative intent than any other non-Sony LED LCD TV we've reviewed, offering almost 1900 nits of HDR peak brightness, accurate PQ EOTF tracking, superb upscaling and gradation, not to mention industry-leading motion processing and local dimming algorithm. And so the Sony Bravia 7 earns our highly recommended award. While the flagship Bravia 9 features more accurate colors out of the box, wider viewing angles, higher brightness, and more local dimming zones, the Bravia 7 is not without its own advantages, namely higher native contrast, no rainbow reflections when hit by direct light, smoother 10-bit gradation in dark HDR scenes, effective auto-local dimming medium performance in game mode, and less pronounced cooler edge tinting, which we've reported in our Sony Bravia 9 review video you can watch by clicking here.